Okay, let's have a look at the tools that I'm going to use to strip this bolt down. Obviously I've got the bolt there. Normally if you look through the Remington maintenance leaflet or whatever, they don't go any further than removing the firing pin assembly, which is complete with this shroud here, firing pin and spring, from the bolt body. Then you stop. But what I'm going to do today, I'm going to strip the bolt right down. And now you may want to do that if you want to replace the firing pin spring or replace a firing pin. So I'm going to show you that. These are the tools that I'm going to need to do this job. First of all, a punch, adjustable spanner, the washer, and this tool. Now this, I'm sure if you got the kit you could make one, but this is I bought this from Midway. It's the tool that enables you to compress the firing pin spring within the shroud and remove a cross pin and take the whole thing apart, which I will show you. So you're going to need that. Up here I've got a jag, I think it's a 45 pistol jag, and a set of artery forceps that I might need. So the first job is to take the bolt apart, which is, I find, a little bit fiddly, but anyway, let's do that first. Okay, I've tried all sorts for doing this, and I'm not that successful with it, but the best I found is this heavy gauge wire, gardening type wire, which I just hook under the first slot here. You can see that, I'm working backwards here. Yep, under this slot here, and I get my washer ready, because when I pull this cocking piece through the shroud and out, it'll expose a gap that I can slip the washer in, and that's it. So let's try and do that. It's not easy. Now I've got the washer in the gap. Not bad for a first time go. I'll bring that closer so you can see that. There's a little cutout in this cocking piece here. You can see it up there, and I've slipped the washer in there. So now what I can do is unscrew the firing pin assembly from the bolt body. Okay, so all you do is turn the shroud carefully to remove it from the bolt body. Now don't bash this washer here, otherwise it will come uncocked and you'll have to go back on the your piece of wire or your bit of paracord and pull it out again. So be careful with this. Now it comes. Firing pin assembly there. Now the bolt body's empty. Okay, it's still got the washer in there. We don't want that coming out, and the bolt body we'll clean a little bit later. Let's show you taking this apart. So now I need this special tool. Now I'm sure you guys can make one, but I haven't got that kind of facility here, so I bought it. It wasn't cheap, about £40 I think, and you've got to bolt one end which is hollow, and you can see that in here this bolt is hollow, and that's where your firing pin's going to go. So you put the bolt through, the firing pin assembly through here, and it's threaded so that you can then tighten up the shroud on here. Alright, don't overdo it, and then just keep it like that. Now we're going to tighten up the bolt. And it will come right up until it touches this collar on the firing pin, and then it will start to compress the spring. Now I find this is a bit tight, So what I do, I use a spanner. You can use a box spanner if you've got one. Just tighten this up. First thing that happens, of course, is your washer or your 10 cents or whatever you've got in here falls out, because you're now tightening. You're pushing the pin and spring assembly through. I mean, whether you can see that on the video, the cocking piece is now coming out of the shroud as I tighten up the bolt on the end. Sorry, this is a little bit fiddly for videoing because it's loose. Now, when you get to this position, you'll see on the cocking piece, which I'm going to point out here if I can get a bit closer, there's a pin called the cross pin. Now this holds the cocking piece to the firing pin. So what you've got to do is push that out. Now be aware, there's the pin there. Be aware that sometimes this is very tight on a Remington. On my other Remington rifle I had to bash it out with a mallet and a pin punch. So, and this is a key component really. If you haven't got this, you won't be able to fire your rifle. So I keep a little pot, drop it in there. Now effectively I can take my cocking piece out. There we go. Put that to one side, and what I want to do now is actually take this apart. This is what you do to change the pin. Now I back them all off. Don't want compressed springs anywhere. So here we go, we're backing off. The bolt shroud's quite loose. Back it right off, because you'll need to obviously reverse this process when you've replaced your firing pin or the spring or just cleaned everything up. So back it right off here. And then just remove this. Now relax, spring pops out there, and now we can remove firing pin and spring. They're two separate entities now, and that's our components. Now you may notice on my spring no grease. Obviously I'm in the UK, doesn't really need heavy grease, and I figure that it will actually affect the function of the firing pin, spring and pin because of the thickness of the grease. So that's that bit stripped. Okay, what I've got here for my bolt body is a little bottle of isopropyl alcohol. This dissolves grease and crud. So what I do, just can you see that? Just drop some down the bolt body, comes through the firing pin hole, and it effectively degreases and removes any crud that's in there. And this is fairly clean. If you really want to, you can use a very fine piece of wire just to make sure that the firing pin hole here is clear. But I just run the isopropyl down. It evaporates very quickly. It's very good stuff, this. So I'm going to give the bolt body a quick wipe. Use it up. You can see a little bit of stuff on this thing, but not too bad. Now that'll evaporate, and it leaves no deposits, because you can use the really good stuff for cleaning lasers, which are notorious. They won't laze if there's one little spot of muck on there. I give the firing pin spring a go. The pin, just polish that up like that. Shroud, threads. Okay, cocking piece. And don't forget that little, there's that notch that you put your washer in. Okay, I've got the jag here wrapped in a 4x2, bit of 4x2. Just push it down the bolt body. Right, so bring it back out if you can get it. Don't worry if it gets stuck, you can just use a pair of tweezers or something, or a piece of wire again to push it out. So clean the bolt body. You always get some crud. Now, perhaps I've said before on my other cleaning videos, I like brake free. It's a nice lubricant, so I'm going to put a little bit down the body. When you see that, just drop some brake free down there and leave the bolt upright. Won't stand up, will it? I'll leave it on the slope then, let the brake free permeate. And the same with the other components before we reassemble it. So I'm going to put a drop of brake free on the pin. Nice coating there, and some on the spring. There we go. Work that in. Bolt shroud. Put some on the threads there. No need to go too mad. And the cocking piece. Just use what you... If you're allergic, I've got to say all this stuff, then wear gloves. I'm not, so everything's got a nice light coating of brake free, and that's all I'm going to use. I'm not going to grease this at all. Now I've got the job of reassembling the bolt and the firing pin assembly, and that's it. So let's get our stuff ready here. And what's best to do with this tool is take the bolt here right back. Okay, so we've got to reassemble. Just the reverse of what we did really. Put the spring back on, rests on the collar, put it in here into the tool, and just put this bolt in a touch. Right, now we need the bolt shroud to go in here, which you need to push that to compress the spring. There we go. Okay, so first job, just tighten up the shroud to where it was when you put it in there, like this. You can see that, and just bring it back so that you can see this slot where the cocking piece goes. Now I've got to compress my spring. Really just do the opposite of what I did before, and just keep doing this. And what this will do when we finally get it tightened up, which is a few turns yet, so it's very fiddly. I'm sure you can appreciate trying a video which is virtually in front of the camera and standing at one side trying to tighten this. Anyway, I might edit this out. Keep tightening. And eventually, quite a while yet, now you can see in this slot the firing pins starting to protrude. If I go a bit further, and keep going here, firing pins getting further and further out. Here we go. Now do be aware, I'm taught while I'm doing this, that Remington, you've got to be careful of your warranty, because if you've done work like this, Remington could say it's no longer under warranty because you've done this. But it's not really a gunsmithing job anyway. So keep pushing the pin, and what will happen is that the hole in the pin, I'll put that down for the minute, the hole in the pin here is poking through the back of the shroud here, so we can now put our cross piece on. And what you've got to do first of all is roughly align this like that, so if you like it's at a right angle to the slot. Cocking piece goes on, and of course it fits in the slot. Now if your firing pin and the hole in the cocking piece aren't aligned, you need to take it off again and do this. Just a little touch, bring that back, a little bit fiddly, and then when you get a reasonable alignment here between the firing pin and the cocking piece, just put your pin through if you can and just waggle it to get a line up. Still needs a little bit more, so I need to come a couple of degrees this way. There we are. Bit fiddly, not too bad. Now you've got your cross pin. Yeah, goes back in there. Now you might find it's not going to go in that easily, so you just put your punch in and waggle about here a little bit. And sometimes this goes in, first go, and sometimes it doesn't. It's going to go, I think. No. Yeah, got an awkward one this time, then. I'll try the other side. There we go. Bit fiddly on that one. There we go. Just push the pin in so it disappears into the cocking piece. That took a bit longer than I thought, but there you go, you get the principle. Now we're going to unwind this and refit it to the bolt body. So we go ahead and do that, and you'll notice it's quite a good design that the bolt shroud here acts as a sort of retainer for the pin. It can't come out as soon as it's gone past the end of the shroud here. So back this off. Now this is the point where you've got to be a little bit careful. You want this cocked again before you put it back in the bolt body. So you've got to put your 10 cents or your washer in that gap, back off the bolt, and there you are. You can now undo this. Get my hand out of the way. Undo this. You see that the pin and the spring are compressed. Take this right back. Now very carefully again, just undo your bolt, your firing pin assembly. Take it out. Again, don't bash that washer. And out it comes. There we are. Back as it was. Back into the bolt body. All lubed up and clean. Push through and tighten your bolt body onto the firing pin assembly. Now be careful here. We want to get this in the correct orientation to go back in the rifle, and it won't go that far. You feel it tighten up, and just back it off. And what you want is the cocking piece aligned with this very small notch in the bolt body here. Can you see that? If you could do it incorrectly, you'll have to use your piece of wire or your paracord and pull it out again and recock the bolt. So you don't want to do that if you can avoid it. So line the cocking piece up with this small notch in the bolt body, and you'll notice that these lugs line up. Now you've got to get your washer out. So keep that lined up. Be careful with this because it easily uncocks. That's it. Here, that snap back, and the cocking piece is now lined up with this notch in the bolt body, which also, when you line the bolt up this way, as it would be in your rifle when you've unlocked the bolt, you notice everything's in a line to go down into the rifle, the receiver, sorry. And that's it, that's job done. Okay, last job. We're going to put our bolt back in the rifle. First of all, check it's clear, no magging. Bolt back in. Put the safety on. Good tug on the trigger, safe enough. Fine. Safety off. Now, you'll know how your rifle feels, muscle memory, so that's fine. So that's it, that's the job done. And I'll probably do that once a year, usually in the winter when the weather's crap. And that's it. Thanks for watching.